we get started tonight with this podcast, we'd like to extend our thoughts and prayers to Ty Jordan's family. I'm sure they're going through a lot of rough moments right now with everything going on, and we'd just like to extend some thoughts and prayers out before we get this going. But without further ado, let's get to the podcast, Nathanael.
All right, welcome back to week 2 of the Sports Authorities, episode number 2. I'm Nathanael, that's Jordan, and we have an exciting podcast this week. NFL recap, a crazy week in college basketball, and a crazy week ahead in college basketball. We'll break down our college football playoff and give our prediction, as well as a few bowl games, and talk about what we've seen so far in the NBA from this week and the Christmas Day games. But first, I'm going to start off with talking about what we saw Saturday night between these two football games. Jordan, I know you were watching the Dolphins game. Were you also watching the Liberty Coastal Carolina game at all?
I was not. I was just looking at it on Twitter.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, there was the Miami Dolphins and the Raiders were playing Saturday night, as well as Liberty and Coastal Carolina in the Mortgage Cure Bowl, I believe is what it was called. I don't know. It doesn't matter. In the bowl game. And when I tell you this is the 30 minutes of some of the craziest, weirdest, best football I've ever seen in my life, I'm not kidding. So first off, in Liberty, the Coastal Carolina game, first of all, great game. You have Coastal Carolina coming in, the Sun Belt champions, undefeated, and then you have Liberty also coming in at 9-1, I believe, with their only loss to NC State on a last-second field goal. And I mean, talk about a quarterback duel. Grayson McCall and Malik Wilson, I believe is his name, from Liberty. Just absolute duel. Those guys are studs. Grayson McCall, I didn't realize he's only a redshirt freshman. Like that dude's a stud. He is a stud. We might see him on Sundays. That dude is a beast. But you have a quarterback duel that's coming down to the end, and Liberty has the ball, trying to score the go-ahead touchdown, but they're faced with the classic dilemma of how quickly do you score, trying to run time off the clock, and so they have the ball, first and goal. I'm about the 4, hand it off to the running back. He kind of takes a couple steps and just stands there until he gets tackled. So you're like, okay, they're just going to keep running the clock down, and they're probably going to attempt a field goal. And so second play, they snap the ball again, but this time the defense goes to drag him into the end zone, and his offensive line doesn't stop it for some reason. Not sure where the communication was there. But on the 1-yard line, this man fumbles the football.
Yeah.
The absolute one thing you cannot do. Like bro, don't go into the end zone, but absolutely don't fumble the football. And man fumbles at the 1-yard line, gives Coastal Carolina the ball back. They don't score, and it goes to overtime. Just ridiculous. Overtime, slightly anticlimactic. Liberty kicks a field goal in the first overtime. Coastal Carolina also gets stopped. They're forced to attempt a field goal, and Liberty blocks it to win the game. One of the most insane, ridiculous things I've ever seen. I mean, we see this all the time, this dilemma of how quickly do you score? Do you just kick the field goal? What do you do? Never have I seen it turn into a fumble on the goal line. I mean, Liberty, they win, so Hugh Freeze is vindicated. But wow, Hugh Freeze, that does not look good for him. And then you have over in the Miami Raiders game going on at the same time, Tua gets benched with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And here comes Ryan Fitzmagic, the handsome devil himself, off the bench. And my goodness, the dude just – there's not a better quarterback in the NFL leading comebacks off the bench than Ryan Fitzpatrick. The dude is just – it's just Ryan Fitzpatrick. He comes off the bench, 182 yards and a touchdown is what he finishes with. But he comes off the bench, leads them down the field. They kick a field goal to bring it to 16-13, I believe. Raiders come back. Then they kicked another field goal to tie it at 16. And then the Raiders get the ball back, and Derek Carr throws the touchdown pass to Nelson Aguilar as he queerly shoves. I tweeted holy push off Nelson Aguilar because, holy crap, the dude just massive two-hand push off. Apparently, offensive pass interference isn't a thing anymore. It'd be nice if the NFL could review those, but they botched it so bad last year that we can't review that anymore. And just terrible push off. They get away with it. But Dylan Carlson misses the extra point. So it's 22-16.
Yep.
Fitzpatrick gets the ball back, throws the little under route to Myles Gaskin, who with great blocking just cuts upfield, and man's is just gone.
Yep.
Absolutely just takes off. They hit their extra point to go up 23-22, but too much time left on the clock. Derek Carr, and the Raiders offense now becomes the beneficiary of a terrible pass interference call as on a ball that I just don't think that it's just not pass interference.
Yeah.
That ball is Nelson Aguilar never ever catches, like he's never going to get to that ball, and it's a soft call at that. I mean, just a bad call puts the Raiders in the red zone. Raiders kick the field goal to go up 25-23, 19 seconds left, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick gets the ball back, and this dude, there's a reason they call this man Fitzmagic. Face mask, man's just looking straight up at the sideline and just heaves it down the field to what's his face, Mac Hollins.
Yep.
Just floats it up there, catches it plus the 15-yard penalty, puts him in field goal territory. Field goal kicker drills the 44-yarder. And they send the Raiders home for the season. I mean, just talk about two thrilling football games on your Saturday night.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing. The Raiders, they're done for the season. Miami, they keep their playoff hopes steadily alive. I mean, just a fantastic game. The Raiders, I mean, as a Chiefs fan, I mean, I love to see it, gotta say. I mean, you just can't keep doing this to the Raiders. They're 1-4 since Patrick Mahomes just absolutely ripped out their souls on Sunday Night Football. They missed the playoffs again. John Gruden, 3 seasons, 3 missed playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not sure when it's going to turn around for the Raiders. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
I think, first of all, with the first game you're talking about with Liberty and Coastal, it needs to become a yearly thing they play. I think it's just another proven point that these Group 5 teams, the games are just classics, and Liberty and Coastal should be another classic along with Coastal and BYU and stuff like that. It was a great game from what I heard, and that ending where they got the blocked field goal is just too much excitement behind the game.
Just perfect.
Yeah. And then the Miami Raiders game, I want to know what John Gruden thought when he said, let's kick a field goal and not go for it, because he realizes that if they get this, they're only up by 2.
I can tell you what he thought. John Gruden in his press conference was asked about this, and he said that against the Chiefs, they scored a touchdown and didn't work out for them. So this time they were like, okay, well, we'll just go for the field goal. Also doesn't work out for them again. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid live in the Raiders' heads rent-free, clearly. I mean, Patrick Mahomes just ripped out their soul and ruined their season, and I personally love to see it.
Yep. And honestly, just the way it looks like the Dolphins are going to secure a playoff spot this year as long as they do their thing next week against the Bills. Hopefully they sit their players like Josh Allen and all them, so that way they don't have to play. They've got their spot secured, and the Dolphins can take the dub and go into the playoffs this year. But that's about it from me. Are you ready for the NFL?
Jordan, I am, but one question about the Dolphins.
Yes.
For the Dolphins going into Week 17, who are you starting? You starting Tua or Fitz?
I think that comes down to a practice. Like a practice 1v1, see how they're going, and comes up to that. I like how they're doing it down in Miami, how they keep flip-flopping. I think they should just stick to the who's hot and who can handle the game. I like it. I don't know who you start yet, but it's interesting.
Brian Forrest said his post-game Tua is the starter. If you're me at this point, this is now twice Tua has been benched. I understand wanting to play Tua. That he is your quarterback of the future, undoubtedly. I think Tua has a lot of potential, but at this point, you're the Dolphins. You have a good team, and you were great. It wasn't like they were struggling with Fitzmagic as the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. Like they were good. They were doing well, and so in my opinion, I mean, this Fitzmagic comes off the bench. He clearly still has it. He clearly can still lead this team to victories. I think right now Fitzmagic is your best quarterback. Tua is undoubtedly the quarterback of the future, but I think if you want to win games right now, which obviously they do, they're trying to make the playoffs and trying to make a run. Like I think Fitzmagic gives them the best chance, but it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what Brian Forrest does. I mean, they're definitely the surprise team of the year anyway.
Yep.
But let's get to the rest of the NFL. Christmas Day, Saints and Vikings. Holy cow, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, it's amazing. He ties the NFL record with 6 touchdowns in a game this week. It was great to see them actually secure the division with that win. It was great to see Sean Payton in the locker room after doing his little dance. And with that, I believe the Vikings were also eliminated, which wasn't a surprise to anyone, but I feel like it was just something to put out there. You got anything else for this game?
Yeah, I mean, barn burner, 52-33. I mean, the Saints offense is clearly back with Drew Brees. That's clearly when they're at their best. Alvin Kamara is quarterback. I mean, when they get Michael Thomas back fully healthy, that team is absolutely a contender in the NFC with the Packers. Man, they're good. I don't really know where the Vikings go from here. Man, they have some decisions to make.
Yep.
What they do at the quarterback position, and what they do going forward. But yes, they are eliminated from the playoffs with this loss.
Yep. And also, I don't know if you looked at the comments, but I did see a person in our comments asking for a Lions segment, so they shall get it. The Buccaneers roll the Lions 47-7. It did not look good at all for the Lions, in my opinion. Now, granted, Matthew Stafford did leave the game rolling his ankle. That's very sad to see. You know, I feel like Matthew Stafford has not performed at all as much as he should have because of injuries. But it's just another year for the Lions at this point. Tom Brady in this game, though, did throw 4 touchdowns for 348 yards. And I was talking about him last week, how it's Tom Brady, and if that offense starts clicking, they can look very dangerous. And I know it's the Lions, but they looked like they were finally starting to click. The wide receivers were catching balls finally. They were looking strong, obviously, based off the score. And once again, Tom Brady's coming in the clutch late in the season. I'm impressed with this game.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, Tom Brady, he's Tom Brady. He's going to show up this point in the season. The Lions, man, I just don't know what to do if you're that franchise. Obviously, you've already fired Matt Patricia, and you're gonna move on from there. But I mean, man, like that. I mean, there's rumors about Matthew Stafford, whether he's there or not next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a franchise just absolutely fail to build around a quarterback at Matthew Stafford's caliber. I mean, that dude. They just ever since Megatron retired, they've never built around that guy. Yep. And I don't blame him if he decides to leave. I would absolutely leave if I were him too.
Mm-hmm. The next game we had on Saturday, the other one, was the 49ers and the Cardinals. I saw you had some things about that game, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals' playoff hits the playoff hopes take a hit after this loss. I mean, if you're the Cardinals, you cannot lose to C.J. Beathard. You just can't. I mean, you just lost to the third-string quarterback. I mean, that's a bad loss for the Cardinals. They have to win and have some things to go right for them, I believe, next week to make the playoffs. I mean, it's just a bad loss. You can't lose to C.J. Beathard. But man, if you're a general manager and you're looking for a head coach and you watch that game, Robert Saleh's got to be right up there at the top. That way, people were raving about him last year, the way he coached the Niners defense and took them to the Super Bowl. But what he's done this year, after losing so many guys out for the season, has been far more impressive. That dude, I would be shocked if he doesn't get a head coaching job somewhere, because holy cow, what a job he's done.
Yep.
C.J. Beathard gets a win. I mean, kudos to him, but bad loss for the Cards.
Very. I have nothing else for that one, so let's move on to Sunday. First game I have is Ravens keeping their playoff hopes alive as well, beating the crap out of the Giants. The offense finally looked like it was clicking. Wide receivers looked like they were ready to play. Lamar Jackson looking like his 2019 self. Very impressed with this game. The Giants' playoff hopes are still alive with that terrible division, but it did become a little tougher for them today.
I think they were mathematically eliminated. Were they not? Or are they still? They
are still contenders. They play the Cowboys next week, so they need the Washington football team to lose and for them to beat the Cowboys to
lose, and they have to beat. I mean,
it's possible.
Danny Dimes is back.
Yeah, that's
better,
true.
But
yeah,
I mean, the NFC East is just such a crapshoot.
It's just a joke.
Yeah, they lose to the Ravens. The Ravens are starting to look better. You're still not where you want to be if you're a Ravens fan, but they are looking better.
Yeah.
The Giants really had no answer from the beginning in that game.
Nope. I actually put 2 games together here. I had the Colts and the Steelers, and then the Browns and the Jets. These 2 games have big implications after the results. The Colts went into Pittsburgh, took a very convincing lead at the beginning. I believe it was 21-7. Philip Rivers tied the 5th most touchdowns with Dan Marino, I believe, was today.
Yeah. I think so. I think it was 5th. Yeah.
Yep. And then
420, I believe.
Yep. And then Big Ben and the Steelers came storming back to take the win, 28-24. Steelers still not impressed with them. They looked like they struggled in the first half, and then they just turned it on in the second. It was home advantage. Granted, that doesn't mean nothing with Corona this year, but it wasn't convincing for me. And the Colts now are on the outside looking in. They're now 10-5. They are 8th in the AFC, right behind the team, the Browns, who played the Jets today and took an L to the Jets, who the Jets are the worst team ever because they won that game. They threw away Trevor Lawrence and gave him to Jacksonville. Granted, I don't want him in Jacksonville either, but I'd rather him in Jacksonville than in New York with the Jets. But the Browns, they did have a lot of players out with Corona. I'm still surprised to see. I have seen what's it? I already forgot. Baker threw over 50 times in this game. Why is he throwing that much with no wide receivers?
Yeah, I don't understand the game plan there from Kevin Stefanski. You have two dynamic running back duo with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and Baker's throwing over 53 times to guys we've never heard of. I don't understand the game plan. It doesn't make sense. The Browns are now on the outside looking in. They're in the 7th seed rather, but they do, lucky for them, they do play the Steelers next week, who I'm sure will be resting everyone considering they've locked into the 2 seed.
True.
At this point, I believe. They're locked. All right, they're still playing for the 2 seed. They could end up the 3, so they might still play their starters.
That's true.
Probably will at that point. But the Browns can beat the Steelers, but they're gonna need a win. I mean, this would be the most Browns thing ever to finish a season 10-6 and miss out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
When they expand the playoffs to another team, when we've seen 10-6 teams make the playoffs all the time, I mean, just bad for them. But I mean, and hey, if the Titans lose tonight, then we have a heck of a finish in the AFC.
100%.
We already have 4 teams going in at 10-5. We could add a 5th team if the Titans lose tonight. Exciting finish in the AFC next week. But bad. The Colts also now on the outside looking in. They're going to need some help. The Steelers could come up clutch for them. Obviously, first they have to take care of business and win.
Yep.
First and foremost. But the Steelers could help them out a lot. Baltimore, so could Buffalo. And also if Baltimore were to lose, that could also help them out. But yeah, if you're the Colts, that's a tough one to swallow. The Steelers finally look closer to their 11-0 self in the second half. But man, I don't know. It's just so the Steelers, they still have things to answer. We'll see how they look next week against the Browns. But if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm not confident going into the playoffs. That's for sure.
Definitely not.
But entertaining stuff for sure. The next game I had was the Bears. They rout the Jags.
Yep.
They control their playoff destiny. If they win against Green Bay next week, they're in. That's big for them. The Bears also, I mean, Mitch Trubisky goes 265, 2 touchdowns and a pick. They have interesting things to think about in the offseason now, regardless if they make the playoffs or not. What they do with Mitch, I mean, Mitch is making it hard for them. That's for sure. They have a tough decision to make there. We'll talk about that more once we get to the offseason, what they'll do there. But interesting things in Chicago.
Yep. Basically the same thing as you. I'm interested to see what they do with Mitch. It'll be interesting conversation when we get to the offseason. The next game of the day was the Chiefs with a win. It was a very close one. I was surprised by this score. It was a very close one with the Falcons today. Kelsey with the big game and overtaking Kittle's yard record today. That was very exciting to see. Once again, proves that he is the best tight end in the league. I'll give you that one. Don't want to hype your head too much with the Chiefs, but Young Hoku.
Hey.
I want to talk about my boy for a second.
Poor guy.
He hit 27 in a row this season and comes into this game and to tie the game up, to go into overtime potentially, we don't know what the Chiefs would have done, misses a chip shot. I was very disappointed to see this, as he is on my fantasy team, but also because the Falcons just can't get a break this year. They're really just, game in and game out, they're struggling, and
they can't get a break any year.
They really can't. And Chiefs, honestly, I have no worries. I think it was just one of those fluke games towards the end of the season. That there was a comment I saw when I was paying attention. I was listening to the Sunday night preview before the Titans-Packers game, and they were talking about how if I was the Chiefs, I'm a little worried that they look like the Steelers right now and how they started out 11-0 and then started losing. I'm like, there's no way you can compare this team to the Steelers. This team is so much more talented and have no worries going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes didn't. I obviously watched the whole game. Me being a Chiefs fan, Mahomes didn't look great. Just looked out of sync. Missed a lot of guys. Not didn't make a ton of great decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. He wins football games. That's all the Chiefs do. He doesn't look good, and it doesn't matter. The Chiefs still win.
No.
Yeah, Young Ku, I guess he was due to miss. That's tough for him.
Mm-hmm.
His facial expression after he missed was
Yeah, it says it all.
that was a great pick going around on Twitter, though. I do gotta say that. But yeah, I don't think you can really compare the Chiefs. I mean, they've 7 games in a row now. They've won by 6 or less points.
Yeah.
Which I mean, hey, look, it's not great, but you look, there's tough games there. They went at Miami, at Tampa Bay, at New Orleans.
Exactly.
Those are not easy games. And here's the thing: they won all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yes, I'm a Chiefs fan, I would love to see the Chiefs blow them out. Here's the thing: the Chiefs don't really blow out anyone unless it's the Jets.
Yeah.
We play down to our opponent. That's what we do. We're in the entertainment industry, I guess. We like to be getting put on national TV because it's a close game, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know what our issue is. We can't blow out the teams we should.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. I'm not worried.
They're also 14
we have a ton
and
of
1.
talent.
It's different.
Exactly.
They've only lost one game this year, and
the only team we lost to, we came back and beat them again, ripped out their souls, and
we don't talk
now
about
they're
the
missing
Raiders.
the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
So Chiefs fan have all the confidence in the world. I think Mahomes bounces back. It'll be interesting to see how much the starters play next week. Given that it looked a little rough this week, if they do get a couple series, treat it like a preseason game, or if they just sit the entire game, that'll be interesting. Like you said, Travis Kelce does break George Kittle's record. He now has 1,400 yards, 100 catches, and 11 touchdowns on the year.
Outstanding.
He's also the first tight end with over 100 catches in multiple seasons, as he's done now in back-to-back seasons. I mean, he leads the entire league in receiving yards as a tight end, which is insane. It'll be interesting to see if he finishes. I believe second is DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins will definitely be playing the entire game next week.
Yep.
Travis Kelce will not most likely be playing the entire game, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to hold on to that. I believe Hopkins is only about 50 yards behind or so. But, I mean, yeah, you said it. Kelce, I mean, I think this undoubtedly proves he's not only the best tight end in the league. To me, I think he's the best tight end of all time. Just the numbers he puts up are ridiculous. He continues to put them up. He's the definition of consistency at the tight end position. And as a Chiefs fan, he is your greatest weapon for Patrick Mahomes. There's no one that gets Patrick Mahomes in rhythm better than Travis Kelce does. And if he doesn't win Offensive Player of the Year, then I'm not sure what the purpose of the award is anymore. If it doesn't go to him, I'm really not sure how you give it to anyone else. But yeah, that's my takes on Travis Kelce. He's the GOAT. I love to have that argument with anyone who'd like to, but I think you're seemingly agreement on there. At least that he's the best tight end this year.
There is no argument there.
Into the early evening slate, Washington football team, they fail to clinch their division. They fall to the Panthers. Dwayne Haskins brings his off-the-field struggles onto the field as he struggles on the field as well after his struggles this week off the field. Man, that's looking like a bad pick. That guy, I saw a tweet. Can't remember who it was, but I saw a tweet. He's now been benched this season in favor of Kyle Allen, in favor of one-legged Alex Smith, and in favor of Taylor Heineke, I believe is his name, who came in for him today. I mean, that's your number 15 overall pick from a couple years ago. It's looking bad from his on-the-field stuff. Clearly, he's struggling to behave himself off the field, which is even worse. Hate to see that from a guy like that. And Peter Schrager, I believe, reported before the game that Washington almost cut him this week after that. So, I mean, you talk about a dude who not only has been benched 3 different times for 3 different quarterbacks who all of which are not fantastic quarterbacks at this point in their NFL careers. He also has almost now gotten cut for his off-the-field issues. Bad time to be Dwayne Haskins. I don't want to bash on the guy too much more, but I mean, he just continues to struggle. If you're the Panthers, I mean, I'm not sure what you do with this season.
You can't.
What you do is try and keep Joe Brady as your offensive coordinator because wow, that dude is a hot commodity for an NFL coaching job.
And get Christian McCaffrey
Holy
healthy.
cow.
That's the main focus.
And, get Christian McCaffrey healthy. Bolster that defense a little bit, and
that
Panthers
team's tough.
will be better next year for sure.
Yep.
The Seahawks, they clinched the NFC West with a win over the Rams.
Yep.
Classic ugly NFC West game, low scoring, not super entertaining. I mean, I'm just not really sure about the Seahawks. They just keep seemingly every week have these low scoring scorelines don't really make sense, but they just seem to keep winning them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, however they got to get it done, but I'm not sure how that fares against a team like the Packers or a team like the Chiefs, who can just come out and boat race anyone they want. Not really
Yep.
sure how that is going to work. It just doesn't seem like Russell Wilson has the pieces
Mm-hmm.
around him right now on offense to just go out and hang 40 if he wants to.
Yeah.
It seems like they're right around that 20 a night and really rely on their defense for them. But I don't know what your opinions are on the Seahawks there, but they do clinch the NFC West with their win over the Rams.
I'm not too impressed still. You know, it's the Seahawks still being mediocre at best this year. If you look at the standings right now, they're playing the Buccaneers first game, I believe. No, that they're playing the Rams again. So, you know, it's not intriguing, but at the same time, it's, you know, the Seahawks could potentially end up still getting a playoff win at least. And the Rams still looking like they're going to get a playoff spot as long as they win next week. Other than that, I'm not too intrigued by how everything's going with them. That whole division's another, you know, it's an interesting one to watch every year. But no, game was not very intriguing to me. Nothing was proven to me other than that both teams are going to struggle once they get to the playoffs when they have to play someone outside of their division. I'd like to do the last NFC East game between the Cowboys and the Eagles. It did just end here recently. The Cowboys routed the Eagles today, I believe 37-17. It wasn't even close. It from the start of the season, I knew the Cowboys were going to struggle with all the injuries and everything, and now it's looking like they have a chance to come back into this playoff. I'm not too excited because of that, because I really don't want them in it. But at the same time,
no,
one of the teams from the NFC East are gonna have to be in it. So you got to pick your poison. It's either take, you know, Washington or New York, who both don't have all three of them are just struggling with people right now and positions. They're just not getting what they need done, and the records show. That's why it's not very good. Eagles with the loss are officially out of playoff contention, even though they somehow had a chance of being.
Even though they came in 4-9-1.
Yeah, had a chance of still being in the playoffs. They are officially done. We're done talking about the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is going to be a quarterback to remember. I think he will be strong for the Eagles in later years, and it will be nice to see what they do in the future. But other than that, it's an NFC East game. Nothing really to talk about.
Yeah, Carson Wentz is not getting his job back, which stinks for Carson Wentz. I like Carson Wentz. I'm a fan of the guy, but I don't think he's probably getting his job back. It'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Yep.
And how they handle that massive contract that he is signed to. Yeah, I'm begging for the Washington football team to please just win next week. I hope Alex Smith comes back. I love Alex Smith. That they're the only team that's shown the potential to be able to beat a legit playoff team.
Yep.
As they did beat the Steelers. Everyone else in the NFC East. I mean, Andy Dalton is playing his way into another backup quarterback contract, so good for him. But don't think he'll get a shot as a starter again anytime soon. The Giants, they're just not there yet, even with Danny Dimes coming back.
Yeah.
So I hope Alex Smith is able to come back next week and Washington can wrap up that division. But, man, that it is just – the NFC East is brutal, and all the games surrounding the NFC East are unfortunately brutal this year.
There are 2 games in the NFL left that are either one. The one's currently going, Titans, Packers. Packers are currently up 6-0 as we are talking about this. It's very snowy down there. I don't know if you saw that, but there's a lot of snow on the ground.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw
game.
the Titans offensive lineman walking around in shorts and barefoot before the game.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Ben something. I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
But football guy right there. That's a football
definitely.
guy. Wow.
And then tomorrow we got the Bills and Patriots. Not too excited for this one. I think the Bills take it easily to clinch one, I guess put themselves in conversation for number 2 in the AFC. But I nothing's surprised me out of there. I don't think Cam Newton gets it done, and I think it's an easy win for the Bills tomorrow.
I agree with you. I think the Bills route that game as well. Let's move on. College basketball. What a week in college basketball. Yep. By far the most entertaining week so far. We start with my game of the week from last week. Wasn't as much of a game after the first half. Going into the halftime, West Virginia led by a point at Allen Fieldhouse. I said this year in Allen Fieldhouse, it doesn't matter it's at Allen Fieldhouse because of no crowds.
Yep.
But Kansas plays the second half like Allen Fieldhouse matters. They rout West Virginia. Absolutely lights out from 3 in the second half. Did not see that performance coming from Kansas at all. As a team, they go 16 of 37 from 3, almost 50%. Christian Brown goes 6 of 12 from three for
It's
22
amazing.
points for him. I believe that's a career high. And then Jalen Wilson adds 17 off the bench, or not off the bench. I'm sorry, at the forward position. Kansas shoots absolutely lights out from three. Just heads up to the rest of the Big 12. Kansas will not shoot lights out from three every single night. They're pretty average, if not even below average, 3-point shooting team coming into this game. Maybe this carries over into the rest of the season. I highly doubt it. You just look at guys like Garrett and Brown, not consistent 3-point shooters. Jalen Wilson, not a consistent 3-point shooter at all. Neither is Abaji. So just they're not consistent 3-point shooters. They can get hot like this and blow teams out now that we've seen, but this is not going to be a night out, night in thing for Kansas. I think we're going to see more games for them consistently like we saw against Texas Tech last week. They also only get 4 points off the bench. That's a little bit of concern from them. This team really relies heavily on their starters. Their starters basically carry them. But, hey, they win again, and they're one of the top 3 teams in the country for a reason.
Yep, I was very impressed. Like I was saying last week, I've never been big on Kansas because they always like to choke at the end of the year. But this year, when I saw that score, I was impressed. I will not lie. I do believe that they are one of the best teams in the country as of right now because the country has a lot of very up and down teams. It's very interesting. We'll get into that.
Everybody's beating everybody.
Exactly. It's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Gonzaga Bulldogs.
Well, Gonzaga is just obvious number one. But if you look at it, I think Kansas is probably 2 or 3 at this point with the convincing win over West Virginia. Very impressed with Brown and that 50% shooting from 3. And that great lights out shooting from 3 from Kansas. It won't happen ever again. It never does for a team, but it was great to see that from them. And I am interested to see what else happens with them.
Yeah. Also on Tuesday night, you had Texas Tech. They hang on against Oklahoma. Jordan, I don't know if you saw the finish of this game. Oklahoma has about 3 chances at the rim after the perfectly missed free throw. All of them fall short, and they lose to Texas Tech at home. But Oklahoma, another team that's going to be tough in the Big 12. The Big 12 just has a lot of tough guys in it.
Yep. I nothing much for about this game. I know Texas Tech, once again, they are strong. They had the close game with Kansas, now pulling it out against Oklahoma. And as I will get to later on in this, Big 12 is it's the first or second toughest conference this year, I believe, in my opinion.
Yep, sure is. Last game from Tuesday night, NC State, the Wolfpack upset the Tar Heels from North Carolina, a rivalry game. NC State, a team with only one loss. They improved to 5-1. Their only losses to St. Louis, SLU, who is probably going to win the A-10. Very good mid-major team. NC State, they could be a threat, and this seemingly slew of just mediocre teams that we have here in the ACC. This conference is up for grabs between so many teams. And, hey, NC State could wiggle their way into that. A big win for them in Raleigh against the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I was surprised by this because one of the other teams I like to watch in basketball is North Carolina, and when I saw this, it was very upsetting. But you are right. This ACC conference, it's garbage right now. There's not a team that's striking me as a top team in the country. Florida State, you could put up an argument, but once again, I still don't see them being a strong team. They play Duke this week, and that'll prove whether or not they are ready to take on a big dog. Because IU is not a big dog, and I'll get to that later. But NC State I think will be another team to watch. With them starting out 5-1 now, they are looking strong. They probably will end up finishing top 3 in the conference, just because I believe when it comes down to it, this win against North Carolina is going to help their record. Because when they get that head-to-head, they're going to have that win over them. Granted, I'm sure they play at one. I'm sure they might. No, they won't play again this year, will they? How's that working in the ACC?
Let me check real quick.
But I don't know. The ACC is very rough. We'll get to the other game the other team, Virginia, later, and what their game was this week. But they're not impressive. It's not impressing me in the ACC.
NC State does play North Carolina in Chapel Hill on January 23rd, so that could be a game to watch potentially there. But on to Wednesday night's games.
Yep.
First game from Wednesday night, Ohio State, and this is honestly my only game from Wednesday night. Ohio State, they take down Rutgers. Rutgers, their first loss of the year, 80-68.
Yep.
I mean, Ohio State, another team to watch out in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, they are just tough. The Big
Yep.
Ten is such a tough conference. It's going to be so tough to go on the road and win in the Big Ten. And Rutgers found that out the hard way on Wednesday night, losing their first game of the year to Ohio State. Scarlet Knights is still a tough team, still going to be a good team and a contender in the Big Ten, but they do fall for the first time this year to the Buckeyes.
Yes, and it will be interesting to watch because I know they are a great team, but this is their first time experiencing success in a lot of things. They're never really a top team ever if you pay attention to any kind of college sports. And this year, well, last year I will give them that they were looking good in basketball, but this year obviously they started out very strong. I will be interested to see how they take their first loss of the season, whether they can bounce back and play strong against their next team, or if they come out looking like they were hurt by this loss. But I think they handle their next game well and they move on forward. But as you said, Big Ten is tough, and it proved the next night when my game of the week between Wisconsin and Michigan State on Christmas Day. Actually, that wasn't on the next day, but it was on Christmas.
That was on Friday. Yep.
Yeah, and a big win for Wisconsin. I was impressed with how they played. Experience matters, as you've stated multiple times to me, and that's what happened on Christmas Day. It was definitely not a bad game for Michigan State. They still look strong, but it just Wisconsin came out on top. And I think after this game, we've got real talks of, and especially with Iowa's struggles, you've got a top team in Wisconsin that could probably be the best team in the Big Ten right now. I'm not seeing based off of just because Iowa's losses. Not saying that.
I mean, Wisconsin's going to be your highest ranked team in the Big Ten when the polls come out tomorrow morning. It's a big win for them over Michigan State on the road on Christmas Day. We just talked about how hard it's going to be to win on the road this year in the Big Ten, even without fans. It's a massive win for Wisconsin. But like you said, experience matters. And this brings up one of the points I wanted to talk about was, Wisconsin. I saw the stat on Friday while I was watching this game. They have 6 players who are either 22 or 23, meaning they're either seniors or redshirt seniors. Or I guess I suppose they could potentially be a redshirt junior. And I mean, you watch them play, and they just seem so molded together as a team. And it just brings to one of my points that I think this year, especially more than others, with COVID and teams not being able to practice during the summer, which is when a lot of your new recruits get familiar with the team and get built in, like get familiar with the culture and all those things. I think experience is going to help teams so much this year in college basketball. And even next year in college basketball, as we still continue to see recruiting affected by COVID and all these things, you see a team like Gonzaga, the number 1 team in the country, who are led by guys like Drew Timme and Corey Kispert, who are veterans and have been around for several seasons. And I mean, it's just experience is taking teams. It's helping out so much. My Missouri Tigers have 4 seniors, and they're undefeated so far this year.
Right now.
And it's just experience is helping so much. And on the flip side of that, you go look at a program like Kentucky, who is sitting here with all their freshmen, with the exception of the one grad transfer, or maybe it's not a grad transfer, but Olivier Sarr, who's a senior, and they're just struggling so much. You can tell they've never played together. You can tell they didn't practice this summer together, and they don't really know. They're not molded together. They're not playing as a team. I believe they're 1-6 for the first time since the 1920s or something. And I think we're going to see this shift in college basketball. The last decade has been dominated by the one and done trend. But you look at your national champions from the last decade, and really a lot of your national champions from the last decade didn't just have a ton of one and dones. You look at your Villanovas; those teams had several experienced players on them. The North Carolina team that won a national title, they had a few experienced players. Your your Virginia team that won, they had several seniors on a couple seniors on that, and even Texas Tech, who played them in the national title game, they had several seniors. I think in college basketball, we're going to see this trend back toward. Yes, you're going to have your teams in the top 25 that are dominated by your one and dones, your Dukes. But even they struggle. They're struggling this year. Kentucky's struggling. I think we're going to see this mold that the teams in college basketball who are successful and are competing for your national titles are going to be the teams with experience because they play so well. They mold so well together, and it just helps so much in the college game for sure. I think we're seeing that a ton this year without the summer practices.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the case for most teams this year is if you have the experience, it's what's helping you. IU, on the other hand, since we're on the Big Ten topic, That is not the case with this team. I've watched multiple games this season. They are now on a 2-game drought, losing to Northwestern, and now this, I believe yesterday was when I watched it, Illinois. Neither game they could pull it out. It looked rough. I believe Trace Jackson Davis, one of the top players in the country, decided to say some choice words during the Northwestern game, saying "Give me the effing ball," because, and I and I believe it's true. This is where this IU team, the freshmen and Trace, that they are and Armand Franklin. Those are the ones who are going to carry this team this year, and the young boys will be the ones who will make this team good if they want to have a chance in March and play in the tournament. The older guys just aren't doing it for me. Al Durham's not looking very strong, and the rest of that team's just the old guys are just not getting it done late in games, and that's why they're losing. And if they don't turn something around, the Hoosiers are in for a rough one this year. They're going to be looking at bottom of the Big Ten, not a tournament. They're not going to get in the tournament, and they're going to be sitting here wondering what's going on. Archie Miller's going to be sitting here in his 4th year, not going to the tournament again, going, what did I do wrong this year? It's interesting to watch because the Big Ten's going to be so good this year, and IU looks like they could be on the downward spiral in this great conference just because their experience isn't being experienced. They're acting like they don't know what they're doing. And then the young ones are the ones coming in looking like they're strong, ready to play. So we'll see how it goes. I said, it's early in the season, and you never know what can happen. It's college basketball, but you bring up a point that's very intriguing to see and pay attention to. Northwestern is a big team this year. They've beaten Michigan State, IU, as I said, and then they win against Ohio State. This team, another surprising team. The Big Ten, once again, I don't know if we mentioned it enough. They're tough. They're very tough,
the
dude.
Big Ten is tough.
And I don't know what to do about it. You can't. I think it's gonna be interesting to see once it comes to playoff time who is gonna be the conference to show out. And I think the Big Ten's gonna walk into this, and if they are as good, if the conference is as good as it's showing, they're going to walk through that tournament. You could potentially see 2 or 3 teams from the Big Ten in the Final Four. It's looking like you could have that, and it's amazing to see. Northwestern got it done. They are a strong team this year, a lot more surprising than I thought they would be, and they're definitely a team to keep watching because they are one of 3 teams undefeated in Big Ten play, along with Wisconsin and Michigan. Michigan, I don't have much about them but they are still undefeated, so we'll see how that goes. But the Big Ten, it's tough.
It's tough. Northwestern, just touch on them real quick. I did watch their game with Ohio State on Saturday, I believe it was, and that was the first Northwestern game I've seen, and they impressed me. They're better than I thought they were. They're a good team. They're going to be tough to handle. Big week for them, beating Michigan State, IU, and then Ohio State. That's a big week for Northwestern. They will undoubtedly be ranked in the top 20 when the polls come out tomorrow. One more game that I wanted to touch on from Friday. Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, they upset Iowa in an absolute shootout in overtime. The Gophers, another tough team that are going to be in the Big Ten, just to make it even more tough than we thought. Iowa, Garza puts up 32, Frederick adds 22, Weiskamp 14. But other than that, not much help from for those big 3. The team continues to struggle from 3 again, shooting just 10 of 30. Bohannon struggles again, 1 of 7 from 3. He's really been struggling lately for Iowa. Marcus Carr for the Gophers drops 30, and Brandon Johnson has 26 off the bench. A couple big time scorers for the Golden Gophers. They're a lot better than I thought. I thought coming in the Big Ten play, I thought they were just a beneficiary of a cupcake schedule to start the year. They beat Iowa. They're legit. Iowa, they've lost a couple games now. Listen, pump the brakes. The Hawkeyes will be fine. They're still a contender in the Big Ten. They're still right now your favorite. Yes, Wisconsin's up there, but Iowa, they're still the best, most experienced team. They just got to figure out how to score a little better at sometimes. When they're struggling to score by the 3, they don't necessarily live and die by the 3 because they still have Garza inside. But when they get in a game like this with Minnesota, who is matching their scoring at the same rate, then that's when they struggle, and that's where Iowa's got to tighten it down a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, because unlike Gonzaga, who they played a couple weeks ago, they can't afford to go in and boat race to everyone every single night
Yep.
because like we've seen a couple games now, they will die by the three if they go with that motto. So they got to tighten up a little bit on the defense side of the end. But Minnesota, another tough team to add to the already ridiculous Big Ten.
Yeah, and if I'm an Iowa fan, I think you take this game with a grain of salt because honestly, Minnesota's not dropping 100 a game. They're just not. They're not a team that can do that. This was a very great game. As you said, Brandon Johnson had 26 off the bench. He's not doing that again this year. I'm sorry. If he does, congrats to him. But if he's coming off the bench again, there's no way he does that. Garza still has 32.
Yeah.
You can't even be disappointed with him. He's still looking great. You've got some struggles, but they drop 90 in a game. That's what you guys have been doing most of the years, dropping pretty good. So if I'm Iowa, I'm not too worried about this game. It's a rough one to take, but at the same time, I think you still sit there pretty confident in your team. There were two other teams that I wanted to hit on before we ended up going under our games to watch this week in the college basketball scene. 5 and 6 in the rankings this week. Villanova, first of all. They lost to Virginia Tech early in this season, but they're on a roll now. They beat Marquette by 18 this week. Marquette's not a bad team, but Villanova, once again, as you said, an
Marquette handed
team.
Wisconsin their only loss of the year.
Exactly, and now you're sitting here. Villanova's on the climb. They're on a roll, and they've only lost one game, and they're looking like a strong team in the country. Number 6, Houston. They beat Temple and UCF this week. They're looking like a threat to be top 5 all season. I've actually experienced some of
UCF was a big win.
Yes, and I've experienced some of this team this year, and they are very big. They have a lot of tall players on this team, and it's tough to go against them. It'll be interesting to see later on in the season if they have once they get done with conference play and they're in the playoff or in the tournament, obviously, because I think they'll be in the tournament easy. It'll be interesting to see though how they handle against an actual major conference. I want to see them against a Big Ten team or something like that. See how they can compete against them because I think they can compete really well and be one of the top teams in this country. It'll be interesting to see the rankings tomorrow. I'm sure Iowa drops down a little bit. I'm sure Houston gets the top 5 spot. Gonzaga, though, that clear number 1 team. There's no one that can. No one's matching them.
The Zags, they continue to roll.
Yep.
They handled UVA pretty easily, 98-75. There's not much else to talk about the Zags we haven't already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's crazy to me, the Zags, they're a threat to hang 100 on anyone. Any night.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just insane to me. It doesn't matter if you're Iowa. It doesn't matter if you're Northwestern State. The Zags can hang 100 on you if they want to. And that is just I have never seen a team in college basketball score at such a consistent rate and with seemingly so much ease as the Gonzaga Bulldogs do. They're undoubtedly the number 1 team in the country right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and finish this off with the games to watch before we lose our brains on Gonzaga being great. I think this is the first time I ever look at this, and it's mainly just Big Ten and Big 12. I don't really see many other games on here that are special. Monday, there's only one game that comes out to me. I think you agree. It's Minnesota versus Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a great game to watch. It'll be interesting to see if the Gophers get ranked this week. I think they might be able to snag one. It'll be interesting to see. I would assume
they'd be ranked.
I'm going to be interested to see the Big Ten in the top 10 through 25, see where they get ranked, how many of them are ranked. Because I think there's going to be a bunch of them sitting in that 10 through 25 spot that are just going to be like, how do you have a ranking where it's legit just one conference in this spot? But Tuesday,
and several of them have beaten up on each other.
Oh, exactly, and that's the crazy part.
Similar records.
Mm-hmm. They're all just beating on each other, and they're still going to be sitting there.
Yep. Yeah, and Michigan State versus Minnesota, that should be a good game. Interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, there's only really one that sticks out to me as well. For me, it's Iowa versus Northwestern. You have Iowa. They've dropped 2 of their last 3. Northwestern, they're on a roll. They've won 3 big games. They're going to be ranked. Iowa's going to drop potentially out of the top 10 maybe this week because of that, or at least they'll be in the lower half of the top 10 undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Northwestern will be in the top 20. I think Iowa gets back on track. I think they take care of business and they beat Northwestern. But Northwestern absolutely has capabilities to win this game for sure.
Definitely. I think it's a great game to watch this week. It's probably one of the best games this week. I don't know if I'd say best yet because I'm still looking over it, trying to decide which one's my favorite. But that's definitely one to watch. I actually have one more for today, for Tuesday. It's a quiet one, but it's Florida State and Clemson. Clemson's a sleeper team this year. I know the ACC is very weak, but Clemson, I believe, is another one of those teams that's going to show out and be strong this year. I think they've only got one loss in the season, I believe, if I was looking at it correctly. Yep. And so does Florida State. So I believe Clemson will be a top 25 team this week. I believe they'll be 24-25. And I do believe this will be two top 25 ranked teams going at it on Tuesday, and it'll be a great game to watch. But
once again, it's just Tuesday. It's two of your teams that have a threat there to win the ACC, and it's a hierarchy of mediocrity that it possesses this week. Moving on to Wednesday, I only have one game for Wednesday as well. It's my Missouri Tigers at home versus the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm so hyped for this game. It's on Wednesday. It was supposed to be, for Missouri fans, a doubleheader with the Mizzou bowl game versus Iowa. That's been canceled, which was unfortunate. I was supposed to go to that, but it's all right because if you're Mizzou fans, you have Mizzou basketball opening up their SEC play against Tennessee on Wednesday night. Absolutely massive game for the Tigers. You win this game, you're probably going to take care of business on Saturday. And another game to watch for me, you're going to be top 10 on come next week. Massive game for Missouri Tigers. We're back, baby. I can't wait. MIZ. Let's go. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
I also had this down on my list for the week. I'm very excited for this game. Both teams are top 15 when I looked last, and they're going to be ranked even higher tomorrow. I guarantee it. It's very exciting to watch. I do enjoy seeing Mizzou back on top and Drew Smith playing very well for them. It will be a very good game, and the only game on Wednesday to pay attention to because it looks like it's a very lackluster Wednesday. Thursday, though.
I agree.
I've got one as well, and I believe it's the same as you. It's Minnesota versus Wisconsin. Like we've got Minnesota versus Michigan State. They are two very great teams that are most likely going to be ranked this week, and it's going to be another tough game to watch. That experience is going to come back out for Wisconsin. We'll see if they can handle a Minnesota team who was able to take care of Iowa this week. It's going to be a very close game. It's at Wisconsin, I believe, and it'll be interesting to watch.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I'm probably putting this towards the top again for the week.
Hey, absolutely. If you're Minnesota, you have 2 games in 4 days versus Michigan State and Wisconsin, 2 of the best the Big Ten has to offer to prove yourself. If you're Minnesota, I think you're incredibly happy if you just split these. Listen, you lose both, that doesn't hang your hat on that's 2 games against 2 top 15 teams in the country. But hey, if you're Minnesota and you split, you're absolutely legit. If you win both, then we're talking about the Golden Gophers being potentially a top 10 team next week if they can win both these games.
Top team in the Big Ten.
Absolutely massive week for Golden Gopher basketball. They're going to be an interesting team to watch this week. No ranked teams play on Friday, which takes us to Saturday. This is the best Saturday college basketball slate we've had yet this season.
Yep.
I absolutely cannot wait. Starting with the 11 o'clock games, my first one to watch is back to my Missouri Tigers. They play Arkansas. If both teams are undefeated going into this week, if both teams take care of business earlier in the week, it'd be obviously a massive win for Mizzou as they play Tennessee. Arkansas, I believe they open up with LSU, maybe I want to say, for SEC play. I'll double check that
Should
here.
Be able to get it done.
But they open up against Auburn on Wednesday night. So that would be a tough game at Auburn. But if both teams were to win, you're coming in Saturday, both teams undefeated, top teams in the country. That should be an absolute thriller. Bud Walton, down there in Fayetteville. That's another game to watch on national TV, CBS, 11 a.m. I think, Jordan, you would probably agree with that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's a great game to pay attention to. I was surprised by Arkansas as well, but then again, they always beat IU every time they play them, so I'm not too surprised. The other game that I have early in the morning is Texas and Kansas. You had it as well. I'm very excited for this game. This is my game of the week. When I was looking through this list. Kansas looking to be strong team this year. Obviously, they had a very strong showing against West Virginia last week. Going to have another tough competition in Texas, who I did say was a competitor for topping the Big 12 this year. I am still intrigued by them. They'll have to take care of business earlier in the week. I don't remember who they play, but they will have to take care of business. I'm sure both will have another game. But Yeah, it's gonna be a great game. That's another great game on Saturday to look forward to. It's my favorite game of the week. I'm very excited to see where this goes, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it.
Texas's other game this week got canceled against Texas A&M Corpus Christi, which would have been anyways. So they
Oh,
don't play until
yep.
Saturday. Um, yeah, this is a massive early season game in the Big 12. If you're Kansas, you just proved yourself last week against WVU. The tests don't stop rolling early in Big 12 play for Kansas. They get Texas. This is I'm debating between this and one other game for my official game of the week, but for me, it does come out to this game to be Kansas and Texas as my game of the week. This is absolutely massive game. Uh, Once again, at Fog Allen Fieldhouse,
Mm-hmm.
big game for the Jayhawks to continue to prove themselves. My next game to watch on Saturday, the Iowa Hawkeyes travel to play the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. You have Iowa, who they're in our game to watch against Northwestern on Tuesday. I've already said I think they bounce back against that, but then the tests just keep coming as they have to travel to Rutgers, who will still be ranked, I'm sure, in the top 15, even though they lost to Ohio State
Definitely.
this past week. Two legit Big Ten teams. Another just great showdown in the Big Ten for your Saturday afternoon viewing pleasures.
Yep, and like I'm a big Big Ten obviously fan. I'm very excited this season for this Big Ten, and it's another game to just show you that every game in this conference is a big game. It's a marquee game basically. You have at least 2 or 3 a week, as proven by the games of the week for our list, and it's another great one to watch down there, or not down
Yep.
there, over in at Rutgers. The next game I have is
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia and Oklahoma. You were talking about this You were talking about this team at one point, I believe. Oklahoma is a very strong team
Mm-hmm.
in the Big 12, along with their very strong conference.
They are.
But it is West Virginia. They are a great team. Don't get me wrong. They did have a struggle against Kansas, but it's Kansas. They are looking
Mm-hmm.
very good, so you can't really put that much to it. I think this is another
Oh
great
yeah.
game. I'm very intrigued by it and to see where Oklahoma stands against them and where this will go from there. But I do believe this will be one of the bigger games of the week, and yeah, I think it's a great game for Saturday.
That game is intriguing for sure. Villanova and Xavier also would have been a fantastic team between two top
Mm-hmm.
25 teams with currently sitting at 8-1. That game has been postponed, which is unfortunate. My next game to watch from Saturday, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, they host the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And on paper, maybe not the most tasty matchups. You have 7-2 versus 6-2. Oklahoma State hasn't really done much, but they do have Cunningham, one of the top recruits in the country. Texas Tech's solid, and like we've said, when it comes to the Big Ten, the Big 12, it is going to be so tough to win on the road this year.
Yep.
Oklahoma State travels to Texas Tech, though. I think that could be a potentially close game. A couple other games we have here: Virginia and Virginia Tech, both are ranked in the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
Um, both teams just continue to sit in this slew of mediocrity in the ACC, along with another game to watch for me. Both teams sitting at the back half of the top 25 with Duke and Florida State.
Yep.
They play Saturday night. It should be a good game based on paper. We'll see what happens down there at Florida State. But once again, it's just this slew of mediocrity in the ACC. But you know what? They have exciting games for sure. I think this is just a massive, massive college basketball slate this week and a massive Saturday. I will gladly be spending my time watching all of these games.
Yep, and like you said, the ACC, they are struggling, but they do provide pretty intriguing games to watch. We don't know if they'll end up being that way, but they do have 4 or 5 teams sitting there at the bottom of the rankings. So they may be mediocre,
Yep.
but they're getting the done to get ranked. So those 2 games are very intriguing to see. I'm very excited to watch those. I also have on Sunday a marquee game for me, Houston and SMU. As of right now, they're both undefeated,
Yes.
winning their games in their conference so far. I'm a big fan of
Mm-hmm.
Houston, so I'm very excited to see where this goes. It's 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2 on Sunday. I think it's a great way to end the week, and I'll probably be watching it while we're recording this next week. But I'm very excited for that
Yeah,
game.
it's a
And
massive game.
yep,
Massive game in the American for sure. Some good old
100%.
mid-major basketball. Doesn't get much better. I don't know about you. I did have two more on Sunday. Northwestern, we've talked about them a lot. They travel to Ann Arbor to play Michigan, who's still sitting undefeated, and Ohio State. They travel to Minnesota. In case you hadn't gotten the point, this is a massive week for Minnesota basketball. They are in
100%.
3 of our games to watch. They could very easily go 0-3 in all these games against top
Mm-hmm.
25 teams. But if you're Minnesota, I mean,
It's a
I think
big
if you're a
week.
Minnesota fan, you definitely have to win one of these. 2 of them are at home. I
Mm-hmm.
think you got to sneak out one. You would really prefer to sneak out 2. If you sneak out all 3, then you are undoubtedly a top 10 team in the country
100%.
next Monday. But big potentially a massive week for the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Yep, and just to top the Big Ten conversation, that the one other ranked game on Sunday is Wisconsin at Penn State, and you can't even you can tell me whatever you want on paper and whatever. Penn State is a tough team. Tough team. I've watched them for the past couple years. They will be tough, and they will cause some problems for Wisconsin. They are a little experienced. If I do remember, they still had their players from last year, and I think it'll be another interesting game for that Sunday. But man, yeah, it's an exciting week for basketball, and I'm ready to get it going. But I think that's all we got for that. If you're ready to move on to our
I think so too.
the big one for the
Move
week.
on. The big one this week, what everyone's going to be watching when they're not watching this fantastic slew of college basketball, is the college football playoff.
Yep.
We've been waiting for it since last week. Jordan, let's hear your predictions for the unfortunately small 4-team playoff in college football that we get the pleasure to watch this week.
Yes, and this week I've decided not to say any choice words to the committee. I'll just stick to the 4 that are in the playoff, and we'll talk more in the offseason committee. I'll have some choice words for you then. But yes, so the first game we're going to talk about is Alabama Notre Dame. It's almost easy for me, as you know. I've got my 2 Heisman people that I'm very excited to see in this game. Alabama handles Notre Dame in this. There is no question about that.
Yep.
I find it hard to see less than a 3-touchdown win for Alabama. I think it's a lot. It's at least 3 touchdowns max or minimum for them. Notre Dame, I don't see them coming out strong enough to compete with this team. And even if they do, Mac Jones is throwing so many touchdowns on them that it's not even funny. This game's not close. It ends in heartbreak for Notre Dame, but no one's going to be surprised by it, in my opinion.
I would have to agree with you on this game. I just looked up the spread. Alabama's favored by 19.5. I think Alabama is cover city in this one.
Yep.
I think they just come out and absolutely boat race them. I think Notre Dame's D does not have enough to stop Alabama in any facet, and I just don't see how. I noticed Alabama defense hasn't looked like the best in the country this year, but I think we're going to see the best. I mean, it's playoff time. We're going to see the best Bama defense we've seen so far this year. Ian Book will struggle. I think Alabama just boat races Notre Dame. And for the second time in as many playoff appearances, Notre Dame gets blown out by Alabama.
Yeah, it's no question that's how that result is. I feel like almost everyone, unless you're a Notre Dame fan, is pretty much on the same page here. Second game of the playoff, we all know it. It's Clemson, Ohio State. I think this can go 2 ways depending on one person, and that is Justin Fields. If he decides he doesn't want to be there and he wants to throw an interception or 2 again, this isn't close. It's another 3 touchdown win for Clemson. It's not a close game. They handle him easily. Ohio State has no answers for them. If Justin Fields does decide to come out and play, I think we got a completely different story. I think it turns into last year again, where it's a very close game, very intriguing game to watch, and it could go either way at that point. I think Justin Fields is a very key player for this team, obviously as the quarterback, but I think if he's out there facilitating enough on the field, that this game could go either way. If he's not out there and not ready to show up, it's not even a question who wins. Clemson walks through him.
It sounds like you're taking the Tigers to me, is what I hear.
Pretty much, yes.
I agree. I think Clemson beats Ohio State. I think they get it done. But I do think it may be close. It very well may be closer than some people are thinking. I think a lot of people are kind of short-sighting Ohio State and don't think they're going to win. Listen, I know Ohio State hasn't played as many games. They didn't look fantastic against Northwestern. I know, Jordan, you kind of you went in on Justin Fields a little bit last week, deservedly so. I think it's very interesting to see what type of, if any, chip on their shoulder the Buckeyes play with. I mean, last year they played Clemson in the semifinal. They thought the call should have gone their way. It didn't. I think it's interesting to see what type of chip they come out and play with. I think the Buckeyes can absolutely hang with Clemson. I think this could be a very close game. It will 1,000,000% be more entertaining than the Alabama Notre Dame game.
100%.
That's for sure. Very happy it's at 7, not at 3. The way I'll be able to watch the majority of the game after I get off work.
Yep.
Listen, here's the thing. Clemson is the better team on both sides of the ball. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts around it. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and the Clemson offense are the better offense, and that Clemson defense, hey, we saw last week against Notre Dame. Those boys can ball when they're fully healthy,
Yep.
and I think they're better than Ohio State's defense. I think Clemson wins this game, but I do think it may be closer than some people think.
And that's fair enough. Like I was saying, if Fields decides he wants to play, I will go off. I will hit on him, but yeah, that is basically where we're at. If he decides to play, it's a very close game. Feel free, if you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and drop in the comments what your predictions for this game is. We'd like to read them. I'll respond to them. We'll respond to them. And let's see what you think. Let's see if you think if Notre Dame or Ohio State have any better of a chance to win these games. If you say Notre Dame, I'm going to ask you why. But that's not the point. You can say whatever you want. It's your preferences. I've got 4 more bowl games. I've got highlighted for the week. Ball State versus San Jose State's my first one. Who you got?
Man, I gotta be honest. I don't really know who I have. Haven't really looked at the matchup. I did watch Ball State beat Buffalo in the MAC championship game. Looked pretty great. Haven't really seen much San Jose State this year, to be honest. I saw that they beat Boise State in the Mountain West championship game. Great win for them. I have no idea, honestly. Literally no idea who wins this game. But on paper, sounds like it should be a fun matchup to me. San Jose State's favored by 9.5. Hey, I mean, I love me some action, but I think San Jose State probably wins this game. They do seem to be the better team on paper.
Yes, and I'm going to have to agree with you here. It's definitely looking, I believe it will be a San Jose State win for them down in Tucson, Arizona. Ball State's a great team, don't get me wrong. The Maction is always great to see, and Big Cat, obviously, he's another person who loves his Maction. But,
oh, yeah, Big Cat loves him.
Yeah.
Down there in Tucson, by the way.
Tucson, my bad. I say whatever. I'm very bad at reading words. Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think San Jose gets it done. San Jose State gets it done. Ball State's a great team, but I don't think they've had the competition. I think San Jose State had a tougher conference this year to play in, and that Boise State win was definitely nothing to sleep on them about. And I think they get it done. The line is 9.5. I don't think they cover it. I think it's a 1-touchdown game, but it'll be interesting to watch that game. My second game for the list was West Virginia versus Army. Who's West Virginia supposed to play this week or in this bowl game before they canceled? It was. I watched Twitter all week about it.
I think Tennessee.
Yes. Tennessee was supposed to be in this game. They opted out. I don't know if it was because they just decided not to play in a bowl game because of whatever, or if because of Corona.
I think they got Rona.
Yeah, I think that was what it was. And I watched my Twitter blow up because it was all full of let Army play. They weren't in a bowl
everybody
game before
wanted
this.
Army in this.
I don't know why they weren't. Army is very deserving in this bowl game. West Virginia hit them up and goes, "Let's do it. We'll fight. We'll play you." So I'm very intrigued for this game. It's going to be a close one. I definitely don't think it's written out to be a blowout. The line is 7 for West Virginia. I definitely think that could be either way. I'm gonna take Army here. Honestly, I think Army's a very strong team. I don't know a lot about them, like personnel wise, but I have watched a couple games and they look very strong, and I think they get it done. I think they get it done against West Virginia.
Yeah, give me the Black Knights as well. Over there, up there at West Point. Army runs the triple option. West Virginia has, I don't know what their non-con game was. West Virginia has never seen a triple option this year, I would assume.
Most likely.
Because triple option doesn't make it in the Big 12.
No.
West Virginia's 5-4 in a Big 12 conference that was mediocre at best when you talk about what it should be. I think Army wins this game. One thing's for sure, Army will want to be there more than anyone. The way they campaigned for a bowl game was something I've never seen before, honestly, for a team to want to be in a bowl game. They absolutely deserve it. I agree with you. I think Army, I'm not sure. I see the spread. West Virginia favored by 7. Not really sure where that comes from. I get it. They're in the Big 12. And the matchup predictor here on ESPN gives West Virginia a 73% chance to win.
Yeah.
According to FPI, not really. I mean, just looking at the stats here, I'm not really sure where that comes from. West Virginia is an okay team, but they're not. I mean, they're sitting at 5-4, not anything special. Give me the Black Knights.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the West Virginia team's not bad. Don't get me wrong, but this Army team's very good. I'm intrigued to watch them. My next game I got is Arkansas and TCU. This is another intriguing game down at Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. I was very excited for this game because when I saw it, I said 3-7 Arkansas, huh? But the line is still only TCU by 5, so they're expecting a close game. I think they're basing it off the fact that the Big 12 was a very mediocre conference and the SEC was a little bit better. I still take TCU here. I don't believe in Felipe Franks. They were 3-7 for a reason. I don't know why they got this bowl game. I'm assuming it's because of COVID and a lot of teams opting out, but I really don't know why they even gave them the choice here to join into a bowl game and why they're still playing it. But give me the Horned Frogs in this one.
Yeah, listen, I don't know who's going to win. I don't have a pick, and I honestly couldn't care less about a bowl game between two Power 5 teams. TCU, quite underwhelming, sitting there at 5-4. Arkansas, Arkansas much improved from as a program from where they are last year, but they're sitting there at 3-7. I don't think Felipe Franks is a good quarterback. Assuming he were to play in this game, I don't see why this game is entertaining. Max Duggan is kind of interesting. The quarterback spot for TCU. Listen, this game's at 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve. I don't think many people are probably going to tune in, and I myself will probably also not tune in. I don't know who's going to win this game, and I honestly don't care. But hey, you sports bettors, have fun with that 5-point spread because that's interesting.
Yeah, and somehow the over/under is 57. I don't know about TCU. I know Felipe Franks could get a couple of touchdowns, but I don't think they get the over. I think they get the under on that, if I'm being honest. But my last game, obviously, I had to pull this one out after the horrendous committee last week. Ole Miss and IU, they play down in Tampa, Florida on Saturday on January 2nd. I think we know where my opinion's going to go, so I want yours first before I go on my rant. Who you got?
Here's the thing. IU's favored by 6.5. No Michael Penix, but the backup, I forget his name.
Oh my gosh! Why
Jordan, help me out.
Hold on. He's a transfer from Utah, I believe.
Tuttle. Tuttle is
Jack Tuttle.
Jack Tuttle. Jack Tuttle quarterbacking the Hoosiers. Listen, I think IU wins this game, but I do think it'll be close. Ole Miss is not a bad team. They can put up a lot of points in a hurry with Lane Kiffin as their head coach. Listen, here's my takeaway from this game. If you're a Big Ten fan, you better be rooting so hard for IU. You need to be, if you're a Big Ten football fan, you need to be rooting harder for IU against Ole Miss than you are for Ohio State against Clemson. Because if Ole Miss goes down and beats IU, who is the second best team in the Big Ten undoubtedly this year, and I get it, they don't have Michael Penix, but they still beat Wisconsin without Michael Penix, so clearly they can still ball without Michael Penix.
Conference is terrible.
And if you lose to Ole Miss, you are absolutely going to get dogged on by the SEC and the ACC, and deservedly so, because your second best team couldn't beat a losing team out of the SEC. I think IU wins this game, but I think it's close, and if you're a Big Ten football fan, you better be rooting your butt off for IU because it'll be absolutely embarrassing, and Big Ten Twitter will blow up in flames from SEC Twitter if IU loses. You better root hard if you're a Big Ten fan.
100%. This is a big game for the Big Ten because, first of all, everyone's furious how they didn't even get into the top 10 this year. Like, if you're a Big Ten, anyone in the Big Ten knows that. This team is a very strong team this year. I know Ole Miss is a very good scoring team. I like the over when it's 66.5. I've taken the over in this game.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I think it depends on... This game I could see going either way. Obviously, I'm taking the Hoosiers. I have to. Not I have to. I want to. I like IU here. That defense is very strong. And they have not played an SEC team this year. The closest thing I would say to an SEC team would be Ohio State, and they let them score 42 on them. So,
Mm-hmm.
That's not giving me the strongest opinions for this game or making me confident that IU's gonna win it. But at the same time, I like Jack Tuttle. I like Jack Tuttle. I like Ty Freifogel. I love Wop Fillier, best name
Ty
ever.
Fry.
Yeah, Ty Fry,
Oh yeah.
Wop, and you
Hey,
got
IU football has some fantastic names.
oh, 100%.
They're a first team all name for sure.
Mhm. You also have
They got some named guys.
yeah, you also got Hendershot as the tight end. He's a great tight end. I'm expecting him to be in the
That's a
NFL
great
one
name.
day. And Stevie Smith as the running back. They have a very strong offense. This offense is very talented, and if they come to play, and as I believe they will, and they will be hungry because this team is not. They are not an 11th ranked team in the country. They are top 10, but they are going to be hungry.
Last college football thing I wanted to touch on before we move to our last subject of the episode being the NBA. A coaching hire stuck out to me this week. Auburn, they fired Gus Malzahn last week. This week they hired Brian Harsin from Boise State. He was very successful in his, I believe, 6 seasons at Boise State. He's been one of the most coveted our group of 5 coaches the last couple of years in coaching searches. Auburn is the school that it takes to hire away. Listen, here's the thing. I think Brian Harsin's a good coach. I'm not sure that you fire Gus Malzahn for Brian Harsin. I get the reasoning behind it. Auburn struggling the last couple of years. Here's the thing. If I'm Brian Harsin, I don't leave Boise State for Auburn. Auburn's one of those jobs to me. If you take, there's schools if I'm a group of 5 coach that I don't leave for. It's Auburn, it's Texas, it's USC. Those 3 schools have the most unrealistic expectations from their fan bases, and especially Auburn, because you're Auburn, you're Alabama's biggest rival, and so therefore, for some reason, the administration at that school and the fan base at that school expects you to be able to compete with Auburn to compete with Alabama year in and year out. And let's just be honest, as long as Nick Saban's there, that's not happening. So the expectations, I'm sure, for Brian Harsin will be completely unrealistic. I like Brian Harsin. I think he's a good coach. I don't think it's a bad hire. I'm just not sure if you're Auburn, you fire a guy in Gus Malzahn who won you a stinking national championship, which if you're Auburn, Brian Harsin probably isn't going to win you a national championship. I'm sorry. That's probably just not going to happen. I'm not sure you fire Gus Malzahn for Brian Harsin. But here's the thing. If you're Boise State, you just lost Brian Harsin, which stinks. He was a great coach. If you don't hire Kellen Moore away from the Dallas Cowboys by the end of next week, then I don't know what you're doing. It is the easiest home run hire in all of college football. You have Kellen Moore, who's your most legendary quarterback. And, I mean, he's been a pretty decent assistant in the NFL. If you're Boise State, you absolutely have to hire Kellen Moore from the Dallas Cowboys. It's so easy. It's such a layup of a coaching hire. If they don't, it'll be one of the biggest whiffs in mid-major coaching hires ever. You absolutely have to hire Kellen Moore. Interesting stuff. I'm not sure you hire Brian Harsin as your replacement for Gus Malzahn. But if you're Boise State, you absolutely have to hire Kellen Moore. Absolutely must do it.
Yeah, I'm not a big SEC guy. I honestly didn't know about this hire until you just said it. But I was surprised seeing Gus Malzahn go, but I wasn't as surprised as a lot of people. I don't know why they let him go, because this was a weird year and they weren't the worst. But I'm not questioning it. That Auburn can do what they want to do. But I agree with you how he should have stuck with Boise State. If you're going into the SEC and you're not going to Alabama, I don't know what you're doing. I don't see a team you would want to go to that has promise of being better. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand if you take a Vanderbilt job, Clark Lee, the guy that just took the Vandy job, you're the Notre Dame defensive coordinator. I don't think he has anything to lose. I think that's probably a smart decision. To me, it's that level of where you go. Missouri just hired Eli Drinkwitz from Appalachian State last year. I think that's a solid move for him. I think there's just certain schools when you're a group of 5 coach, you gotta pick there's a balance between waiting for the best school and picking the right school for you to be able to succeed at the Power 5 level. I'm not sure what Billy Napier down at Louisiana is doing, still waiting around for a Power 5 offer. I've seen every job level open up in the last couple of years since he's been a desired candidate, and he's still sitting down there at Louisiana. Yeah. So not sure when he's going to move or what it's going to take to get him out of Lafayette. Can't imagine that's where he wants to stay for the rest of his life. I mean, programs are going to offer him big money. he reportedly turned down the Auburn job, which I guess hey, listen, you do you, you take whatever you want, but that's a little bit surprising. The other big name that turned down the Auburn job was Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, look, if you're Brent Venables, you're making like $3.4 million or something like that, or it's like $2.4 million a year or whatever as you're like the highest paid assistant in college football. Stay in Clemson,
Yeah,
South
obviously.
Carolina. There's nothing for you to gain. Like, just continue to be the greatest defensive coordinator in the country. Continue to just be the greatest 1-2 coaching combo with Dabo in the country.
Yep.
And I mean, they're probably going to build a statue for you if you just continue to be there and to be the defensive
Exactly.
coordinator. Like, I love it. I love Brent Venables. I mean, his Clemson defense, clearly we talked about them earlier, when healthy is studs. I think it's a good move for him to turn on that offer, but interesting move if you're Auburn. Let's wrap up the show with our last topic this week, the NBA.
Yes.
Jordan, I know you've got a few thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think you and me both agree it was only about 2 games played by each team, so we can't really give an opinion on how we feel. But I've got 3 topics to hit on. That's it. First one, Nets are very scary right now. I know we're not allowed to make predictions, but man, they walked in there Christmas Day and destroyed the Warriors, who, by the way, are not as good as everyone's talking them to be. James Wiseman is a great piece for them, but they are struggling right now.
If you're the Warriors, you don't have Clay. You just lost Marquise Chris for the season.
Yeah.
The Warriors are probably going to struggle to make the playoffs after that. I mean, listen, you still got Steph, you still got Draymond, you have James Wiseman, but that team's going to struggle.
And someone needs to tell Kelly Oubre to stop shooting. That dude. Did you hear about that?
I saw isn't he like 0 of 17 on non-dunks this year?
I thought it was it's something like that. It was awful, and they were like it was awful. I don't know why he is. He pulled up. There was a play on Twitter.
Historically bad.
Yes, and he pulled up. There was a play on Twitter where he pulled up with 3 people on him, bricked it, and both Steve Kerr and Curry were looking at him like, what was the point of taking that? There was no reason for you to take that. You don't hit that ever. But yeah, I'm not too worried about the Warriors as much as the Nets, because the Nets are very scary with Kyrie and KD. I was very impressed with KD coming out, and he's seeming very strong. I was not expecting this from him. And they've got pieces with them that'll be, I mean, they're dropping 120 in both games, and Kyrie and KD are only having 70 of them. They still have 50 points coming off of the rest of their team. So it's very exciting for the Nets. They are scary for the league, and I think they're the top team right now based off of how everything went, but it's only 2 games, so we can't really say nothing.
Yeah, I agree. It's too early to make predictions in the NBA. Everybody loves to overreact. I think you got to give it at least 20 games or so before you can really make predictions. But I do agree. The Nets, wow, they look scary. Kyrie and KD look to be a killer combo for sure.
100%. My second point, I had to say this. The Clippers without Kawhi suck. You do not go. This happened today. This was earlier today. You cannot be down by 50. You cannot lose by 51. You can't do that. It's just not. I saw a tweet. It said someone came out there and told them to start playing like it's the playoffs, and Paul George delivered. That was the best tweet ever. I loved it. But
playoff P, baby.
Yes, but if you're the Clippers, I know it's early, but you got to be a little worried about that. If you lose by 50 to the Mavs and without Kawhi, that's showing you've got some problems on the team. Granted, it could have just been an off day for everyone on the team without Kawhi, and Kawhi not being there was just an extra factor. But I had to say something. That's probably a historical game at this point if you lose by 51, and to have it be to the Mavs, I had to say something. That's sad.
Yeah, that's horrid. Down by a 50 burger at halftime is impressive. I did not believe the box score when someone sent it to our group chat. That was impressive. And our last topic, Jordan, I know you and me are thinking the same thing. DeMontis, we're both Pacers fans. We're a little biased here, just to clarify. But I don't think we're biased when it comes to this point. Domantas Sabonis is one of the most disrespected players in the NBA.
Exactly.
And I will not let this disrespect go on for any longer.
I'm tired of it.
This dude almost drops a triple-double in the Pacers' first game. Does drop a triple-double in the Pacers' second game.
Yeah.
This dude was an all-star last year for a reason. It's because this man is a freaking beast. There's a reason that the team has been shopping Miles Turner at the trade deadline in the offseason because Domantas Sabonis is so ridiculously good. And listen, I think Pacers fans, calm down. I think he's better when Miles Turner is on the floor at the same time. So I'm not. I am a fan of trade. I do think we trade away Miles Turner, but I don't think it's just because we have Sabonis. But Sabonis, this dude is an absolute beast. When he will start getting the respect from the NBA, I don't know. I really don't know. But holy cow, this dude's a beast.
Yes, and everything you said was great. I did love the Pacers' first 2 games. Obviously, as a Pacers fan, it's great to see them winning. But they did start off 2-0. Both games dropping 120 points. And if you looked at the stat
we're
line,
also up 8 on the Celtics right now. In the third quarter.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
Yes,
I'm
we
intrigued
are.
by that one.
81-70, 36 left in the third. I'm going to knock on wood because not to jinx anything. Tatum's got 19.
Tatum could light up here any second if he really wanted to. I'm not going to lie.
Malcolm Brogdon having his first big game of the year. He has 20. TJ Warren's got 15. Sabonis has 10 and 8. Aaron Holiday starting tonight. It appears no Victor Oladipo tonight as well.
Really?
As Aaron Holiday was in the starting lineup, or is in the starting lineup. Miles Turner is 8. Holiday is 6. Dougie McBucket's off the bench with 11. That dude has just been a machine off the bench so far this year. TJ McConnell with 2. Justin Holiday with 9 as well. Yes, it appears no Victor Oladipo, and the Pacers are, their 11-point lead is now shrunk to 6 in about 40 seconds I've been speaking, which is a little bit of a concern. I'm sure I'll watch into that game as soon as we're done recording here. But it appears the Celtics are at full health. They have Jason Tatum, Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown in their starting lineup. So it appears they're at full strength. So if the Pacers can get a win, that'd be great. Once we said it's still early season, but please, NBA fans, media sites, please join us in putting respect on Domantas Sabonis' name, because my goodness, that dude is a beast.
Yes, if you don't give him respect, especially after last year being an All-Star, and most likely going to be an All-Star again this year because he's already starting now with 2. I'm giving him 2 triple-doubles at this point. But the Pacers are going to be a great team to watch because they had 3 players. They had Sabonis, they had Victor Oladipo, and TJ Warren all drop 20 on the Bulls yesterday, and they had Malcolm Brogdon drop 18. It was great to see them scoring. I'm loving this team right now. They are playing a lot better than I thought it was going to come out this season. But
I agree.
Yes, a little update before we end the podcast here. The Packers are currently up 19-7 on the Titans going into the half. From what I just saw on ESPN, I'm not surprised by this. The Packers are very good, but at the same time, I was kind of surprised to see that the Titans are not scoring as much as them too. But
Tannehill 6 of 10 for 66 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Derrick Henry 11 carries for only 35 yards.
That's why.
So it seems like they're just struggling to get it going on offense, and they scored a touchdown to Jonnu with 42 seconds left in the half. So the Packers were up 19 early in the second quarter.
Devontae Adams having an absolute game. 5 catches for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just saw it scroll by on the bottom of the screen as I'm watching this. Great game in the snow for him right now.
13 of 16, 125, and 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Yep. Proving why they want the 1
big
seed.
Game.
Proving why they want the 1 seed in the NFC. If you go through, it's big arguments always this year about how no fans, it doesn't matter if you have home field advantage. It's going to be snowing almost every game in the playoffs. You don't want to be in Green Bay for this playoff, and it looks like they're going to end up having to go through Green Bay if you want to get to the Super Bowl from the NFC.
It also makes the AFC playoff, if this stat line holds and the Packers pull it out, it makes the AFC playoff picture even juicier, like I mentioned earlier, as you would have 5 teams sitting there at 10-5, battling for 4 spots next week. A lot of crazy things can and will happen next week in the NFL. Jordan, do you have any closing thoughts for us before we wrap this up?
Well, first of all, like I said, if you made it this far in the video, please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. We love playing these out for you guys, and we'd love to see the channel grow if we could. So please, if you did enjoy, like and subscribe. It's a great week for sports. I'm very intrigued to be watching some of these games and ups and downs as we head into the new year, and hopefully it's a better year for us. This year's been very crappy, and we are all hoping for a better year. But yeah, and leave a comment down below. Like I said, playoff predictions, any bowl predictions you want to throw out there, and like I said last week, any feedback on whether we did good or what we did bad, give it to us. We'd love it. We love building off of what you guys have for us, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. But that's it.
Yeah, like Jordan said, just thank you for tuning in this week once again. We really appreciate like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff to help this grow. We really appreciate you taking your time to listen to our podcast.
Yes.
We obviously would love your feedback. Comment those playoff predictions down there. We'd love to hear them.
Yep.
Great slate of college basketball this week. Thank you for tuning in to the second episode of the Sports Authorities, and we'll be back next week. See y'all.
Peace.